Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new interview as part of the Hormone Harmony group. So for those who don't know me, my name is Sandrine Olmy. I'm a registered nutritional therapist, really passionate about women's health, and I specialize particularly in digestive health and hormone health. So today, I'm very pleased to welcome a new guest in our group. Her name is Helen Davis, and I will let her introduce herself. And basically, I'm really keen to talk to as many therapists, as many practitioners who are, whose aim is to help women, manage whatever comes their way. At, when we talk about health, specifically, and any sort of natural therapies, any ways that we can support our body naturally. So you will, if you've been in my world for a little while, you will know that everything that I do is linked to food and lifestyle strategies. But of course, food is only one very small element in terms of, how to look after our bodies. So today I'm really, really pleased to talk about bone health specifically with Helen. So welcome, Helen. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Sandrine. It's lovely to be here. And yeah, I'm delighted to have this opportunity to talk to your members and followers.
Fantastic. Yes. So tell us what you do and how you help women currently, and perhaps why you're so interested in this topic, bone health generally, and postures.
Absolutely. So my business is called One Step Forward, and I help people to take one step forward in the direction that they need to move. And what I basically do is everything I do is about helping women, or not just women actually, but helping people to become an active participant in their own healing. So I know we're talking the same kind of language here. So many people these days tend to kind of leave it to the experts, but there is so much that we can do to be play an active role in that. And there's two sides to how I work with people. And today I'm very much going to be talking about one side of that. But just for the record, as it were, the other side of my business is that I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. So I'm very aware of language and how what we say to ourselves and to others has an impact on our well-being. But what I wanted to talk to you about today, and what we've been talking about, as you say, comes down to bone health. So I used to teach yoga. I taught a very slow, mindful form of yoga, which I adored. It changed my life. People who practiced with me loved it. And for reasons that I know we're going to go into, I realized that that form of yoga was no longer sufficient to give me and my body the support I needed to go into a healthy old age in the longer term. And so I started exploring the issue of bone health. And I don't know if you want to go into that, me explain how I got there now.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So if I start first of all briefly by mentioning my own menopause journey, because I know this is very relevant to the topics you cover. So I went through menopause at 46, completely naturally. There was no, surgical reason or anything, but it was a relatively early menopause. I did know that I was going into perimenopause in my early 40s, which actually was unusual because, I mean, we're talking 15 years ago. I'm actually going to be 59 very soon, in a couple of months. But 15 years ago or so, there was no talk about menopause out there. For various reasons, I was suggested by an acupuncturist to have my bloods tested, and my GP confirmed that I was probably in perimenopause, offered me HRT, and I said, no, thank you very much. I'm not worried about trying to stay young. Never thought about it again. So fast forwarding, as I say, I went through full menopause at 46. I then went through a period when I crashed out of my 20-year business career with chronic fatigue. So I had several years where I was not moving very much, basically had to revisit everything about my life. And that's what led me to retrain as a yoga teacher and a clinical hypnotherapist.
Right.
So fast forwarding from there, 10 years, so we're now in 2022, and as far as I was concerned, I was fitter and healthier than I'd ever been in my life. I was teaching yoga, I was practicing hypnotherapy, I was pretty happy with where my life was. And I had a ridiculous fall at home. I trod on the other leg of my trousers while I was walking too fast. And every time I share that with women, most people go, "Oh God, I've done that so often." And most men, when they hear it, go, "You did what?" But yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
So basically, I tied my feet together while I was moving at speed.
Wow.
And I crashed to the ground, as you do. And I threw my hands out in front of me, as you do. And I immediately knew something was very, very wrong. And the bottom line was that I broke both my wrists.
Oh my word.
So that was a pretty big deal. I was on my own at home with the
Oh,
dog. So there were all sorts of things that I had to be able to do. I had to work out how to call an ambulance. I had to think who was going to look after the dog. I had to, tell the people they needed to know.
mm,
So my hypnotherapy skills were invaluable in enabling me to do all that I needed to do. And I thought that's the worst thing that was going to happen to me that year. But
mhm.
because I was at the time 56, so a woman in my 50s with a broken bone, or in my case, two, I was referred for a DEXA scan, a bone density scan.
Okay.
And I thought it was a formality. I literally postponed it a couple of times because it wasn't convenient until I could drive properly and so on. And when I then got the call to give me my results, the nurse who spoke to me told me that my bone scan showed that my bones were in the range of osteoporosis. So not osteopenia, which is a word that some people may have come across, which is
Mhm.
it's a bit like being pre-diabetic. It's like it's not a problem now, but it may be if you don't think about it. But I was
Mhm.
told that I was actually in the range of osteoporosis, and it was totally devastating. As I say, I thought I was fitter and healthier than I'd ever been. I just happened to have broken my wrists. Um, and I knew that I wanted to look at natural ways of supporting myself. I did research into the drugs that are recommended.
Right.
And whilst I am very supportive of anyone making their own choices around anything like this, for me, the more I read about how they work, what they do, and what the potential side effects were, at
Mhm.
this young age, in this context, I knew that wasn't the route I wanted to go down. So I started researching and I came across this program called Bones for Life.
Mhm.
So by this point, we're in September 2022. There is one person in the UK who trains teachers in Bones for Life. Once I'd found her, I discovered that she was starting her next 2-year teacher training course in January 2023, and I was on it. As we're talking today, I have just in the last couple of weeks completed my teacher training. However, I've been teaching this for well over a year because I was already a yoga teacher. So I was really easy. It was really easy for me to transition and bring all my teaching skills and my contacts and my network into play and say, right, I want to share the word about this.
Amazing. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. And it's interesting that there are just no symptoms to this, is there?
This is the scary thing. I mean, sometimes osteoporosis is referred to as the silent disease or even the silent killer because there are no symptoms. I mean, if you have, for some people, as it becomes more advanced, they can get spontaneous fractures, and then obviously that can be very painful. But if you haven't had a fracture, there is no way of knowing whether
Mm.
your bones are becoming less dense than the optimum.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
thing that I say people don't understand, I didn't understand until I started doing this research, is that we are all losing bone density from the age of 35 or so. Everybody, male and female, that's just how our bodies work. Up until the late 20s, 30s, bones are getting more dense because
Mhm.
as they go through a natural process of wear and tear and repair, that process is building them up. And then we reach a sort of tipping point. And after that, the way that that process works means that the breaking down and the repairing is happening faster than the rebuilding. And therefore, there is a gradual decline. And none of that's a problem if our bones have got to the sort of optimum density that we might be hoping for, whatever that is.
Mhm.
Because then the natural decline means that we're probably getting pretty old by the time it becomes a problem.
I see.
But when we bring in the changes in lifestyle over the last couple of 100 years or so, the fact that we spend most of our lives sitting, or we even sit to travel. I mean, you know, we don't move. And so our bones are not getting the dynamic confrontation with gravity, which is what helps them become more supported. Plus, there can be all sorts of other reasons that an individual person might be susceptible to osteoporosis. So being of white or Asian descent increases your propensity. Being female absolutely does, because although both men and women lose bone density as they're getting older, those hormonal changes, which I'm sure you talk about a lot in here, they accelerate that process. And it's really scary, but they apparently the data shows that some women can lose up to 20% of bone density in the decade or so around menopause.
Wow. And then you add nutrition on top of that. You know, did you
Absolutely.
about fizzy drinks, for example?
Oh,
The
don't get me
consumption of fizzy drinks basically interferes with the absorption of calcium. So you actually lose calcium from your bones when you consume the fizzy drinks on a regular basis, you know? So things like that have an impact as
absolutely. And there are so many, the whole nutrition piece. So because I'd had a major health crisis a decade before this, I'd been through a whole process of, you know, totally re-examining the way that I eat and so forth. And and again, there are many, many ways, different ways of approaching nutrition, and, you know, everybody gets to make their own choices. I had reached a point where I was almost plant-based, not
well.
fully, but in my own cooking for myself, I was almost plant-based. And I really liked that kind of food. But what I realized was that I was not eating enough protein. Now, I'm not saying you can't get enough protein that way, but it's an awful lot harder work.
Yes,
And,
it
you
is
know, days you get a bit lazier and you
absolutely.
suddenly realize you're having loads of veggies and some carbs, and that's filling you up. But actually, there's only, you know, less than 10 grams of protein in your meal.
Exactly. Yes, I did something called veganuary. You know, when you go vegan for a month, I did it
Yep.
twice to help some clients because they wanted to become vegan. And I said to them, you know what? The only way I can help you is if I do it myself. So I actually realized, you know, how hard it was to create a meal that was
Yeah.
really well balanced. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean,
Mm.
I used to put, you know, a teaspoon of seeds on my porridge and think I was doing something. I now put a tablespoon of each of 4 different seeds on my porridge. And that's getting me to about 20 grams of protein, which is what I try to eat with each meal. But that's just one meal in the day. So, if, you know,
It's challenging.
it is challenging. So all of these things came together. But what I discovered through Bones for Life is that what our bones need for growth is this, as I mentioned before, this dynamic confrontation with gravity. And so
Mm,
every time we take a step, we send gravity rippling up through the skeletal structure, and that's what creates the wear and tear that our bones need to be able to continue renewing themselves. And so if
mhm,
there is any potential for us to increase our bone density as we get older, it comes through having movement and gravity, keeping everything going, keeping the circulation going. And all of this obviously helps with every aspect of our well-being.
definitely.
But
Okay.
there's another part to it as well, because if we send gravitational force through the body, what we're doing is confirming the alignment of our body. So if we do that while we have a poor posture, we are reconfirming that poor posture. So as well as learning how to send gravitational force through the body, we also need to be able to have the optimum alignment that our body is capable of achieving today. So it's not about getting perfect alignment, but it's about what can my body do today to be in the best possible alignment. And now I've got that, now I send that force through the body. So that
Mm,
every step is not only helping to stimulate bone growth, but it's also reconfirming an improved posture, because we all spend so much time hunched over screens and things. And I'm as bad as anyone, you know, but it's a
New way of life, isn't it? It's a new way of life.
exactly.
Mm,
But what's so clever about this, and I speak as someone who was practicing and teaching yoga for years, it teaches ways of aligning your posture, improving your posture that you can literally learn in minutes and then use at any time.
amazing. So is that what the course is about? Is it? Is that how it works? You're
The
teaching.
course, yeah, the course is the whole program comprises 90 different processes, which sounds like quite a lot, but actually, if you think how many yoga poses there are out there, it's nothing. And each one of them that teaches you something about how your body moves. We're using natural movement. This isn't muscle training. It's brain training. It's reminding your brain how your body best moves, how it was designed to move. And some of them seem almost magical. In fact, there's a little process I'd love to share with you if we've got time to do that. And this literally takes minutes. So if anyone's, watching, do this as well. All you need to do, we're sitting like this, it's absolutely fine. We're going to do a little process to do with the neck. So this isn't actually about sending the gravitational force through or aligning, but it's just an indication of how this works in a really different way from anything else you've ever tried.
Okay. Oh, I'm curious now.
So the first thing you need to do is simply, and obviously I can only see your head and shoulders, so I'm assuming that your feet are nicely connected to the ground where you're sitting, but that's always a good thing to do. So the first thing you can do is just keeping your eyes at horizon level, turn your head to the left just as far as is comfortable and back to center, and just do that a few times. And notice, make sure you don't try and strain. You're not going as far as you possibly can. Just start noticing where you feel those little red flags, that point where you know that that's far enough for you to be comfortable. And then finally, just next time you're there, just notice what you're seeing with your peripheral vision, so you have an indication of how far you're turning comfortably and easily. And then pause when you come back to the center. Okay, so now we can do exactly the same thing the other side. And this is just for comparison. We want to see which side feels easier to move, which turn feels more smooth, more comfortable, which one feels a little bit clunky, a little bit sticky. And again, notice where the red flags are, notice what your peripheral vision is showing. And when you've got a sense of which side, it's just a little bit, most of us have one side that feels a little bit stickier, a little bit less comfortable. So which side would you like to improve, turning left or right?
Turning right.
Okay, so you want to improve turning right. So what we're going to do is you're going to take your left hand and rest it on your left cheek. Now, if anyone else is doing this with glasses on, I do recommend taking them off. But if I do that, I won't be able to see Sandrine. So it's easier without them. You don't need to be able to see. You can do it just by hearing. So you've got your left hand resting on your left cheek. Now, if you wanted to improve turning to the left, you'd have your right hand on your right cheek here. And then just move that hand a centimetre or two away, so you can probably still feel the warmth of your hand. And all you're going to do, maybe a fraction more than that. Yeah, you're going to turn your head to the left and keep your hand still until your cheek comes into contact with your hand. And then you come back to center. So you can now find the place for your hand to be able to do this. I am going to have to take my glasses off. It's no good. So each time you turn into the hand stays still and you feel a bit of resistance. So you're not trying to force anything or push hard, but your head, your neck is aware that it can't turn any further. Make sure you keep breathing while you do this. It's very easy to hold your breath when you're concentrating. And just do that a few times. And then next time you come back to center, you can let the hand rest. Just pause in the center for a moment. Just notice if you feel anything, any awareness in your body. And then when you're ready, I'd like you to turn your head, just as you did at the beginning, to the right again, the side you wanted to improve, and just notice if anything is different. Does it feel a little bit smoother? You perhaps see a little bit further round than you could initially?
Yeah, I think so. I think it feels easier. Well, I'm turning my head a little bit further.
Yeah. And that's such a small, simple process. The mind can't work out how that could have made any difference. But this is what I mean about it's brain retraining. What we're doing here is we're showing the side that is harder. We're showing the side, we're turning towards the side that's easier and showing what it's like not to be able to go any further. And somehow, and I cannot explain how, that then translates into releasing something on the other side.
Oh, wow.
So this is the kind of subtle processes we're talking about. Now, this is, as I say, this is just a really good one to show in a talk, a conversation like this.
Mhm.
But there's a little process which we don't have time to go into now, but which is available for anybody who's interested to find out more, which is a fantastic way to learn to sit more upright. I
Mhm.
call it my sitting up properly video.
I think we all need this.
And it literally shows you how you sitting, and it's done sitting in a chair. You don't need any special equipment, just a nice upright chair that's not going to roll away across the room when you put your feet on the floor firmly. And it will show you how you can use your spine to support itself so that
Mhm.
sitting up away from the back of the chair is comfortable and easy and not a strain.
Uh-huh. Wow, sounds amazing. Yeah, I think everyone needs this. Fantastic. Oh, wow. It's really, really, really fascinating. So what sort of results do people get? I mean, what changes do you see, in people when you
So
work?
what's so interesting, most people who come to me come because they've got a reason. They've either been diagnosed with something like osteoporosis or osteopenia, or they have reason that they know that their mother, their grandparent mother, because it is a hereditary thing as well. They've got reason to believe they might be at risk. So that's what at the moment is bringing most people to me. What happens is that what this actually does is it gives people an incredible sense of awareness of their own body and confidence in their body. And Ruthie Allon, who is the amazing woman who created Bones for Life, talked about biological optimism. And she described that as being that sense that kind of bubbling excitement when you realize that whatever state your body is in, however old it is, it's always capable of learning new things. Just as you just learned something, your body just learned something new doing that little process then. And one of the biggest risks when people are given a diagnosis of osteoporosis is that they feel, and I went through this myself, they think they should wrap themselves in cotton wool in case they break.
Yeah.
Actually, what they need to do is move, but they need to move in the right way.
Mhm.
If you do yoga or Pilates or weight training or anything like that, this can be a fantastic way of making sure that your alignment and your posture is as good as it can be so that you can benefit as much as you can from anything else you do.
Mhm.
If you walk, this will transform the way you walk. Every single student who's worked with me the first thing they've said is, I'm walking in a completely different way. It's smoother, it's more fluid.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if you don't well, I do encourage everybody to walk every day, if nothing else, even if it's 20 minutes around the block. But if you don't do any other formal sort of exercise programs, then this is a fantastic way to just start understanding what your body needs. Because when you learn, so when I teach this, and I teach it through an online self-study course, and I have a membership, and then I also do in-person courses and events for people who live near me in Hampshire.
Mhm.
When you start learning this, you start realizing that every step you're taking can support your bones. And so it becomes second nature to think about how you're doing that.
Right. Wow, that's powerful, isn't it?
It is.
Mm.
And that's why I say it is life-changing. Because
Wow.
people come in saying, will I get better DEXA scan results? But actually, what matters is, will my quality of life improve?
Mm.
And yes, for people who actually do this, your quality of life will improve because you become more connected, more engaged with your own body and understand what's needed. And it improves balance and grounding. And ultimately, more important than the density of your bones is whether you're going to fall over, because
Mhm.
it's not bone density that causes fractures. Ultimately, it's falling over for
Mhm.
most people. So if
Mm.
you can do things that stop you from falling over and keep you active and moving, that is the best way that you can support your bone health, whether you're in your 40s, your 50s, or older.
Amazing. Wow. I think that's a nice way of summarizing what you do. And it's so interesting because you're talking about one step at a time, and just the way I'm talking about one bite at a time, how to look after your body, It's
Exactly.
sometimes it doesn't have to be complicated, right? It's just knowing what to do, what's
Yeah.
effective. And yeah, no, it sounds like this technique is fabulous. So the lady who created this technique, what is her background?
So Bones for Life is based on something called the Feldenkrais method. And I don't know if you've come across
Um,
that. Most people haven't, but I always mention it because if they have, it puts it in context. So if
yeah,
um, I'll try and keep this concise, but Moshe
yeah.
Feldenkrais was a Ukrainian Israeli who was a physicist. He wasn't a medical practitioner, but he created this incredible program, which is often referred to as the original somatic therapy. And
Mm-hmm.
it's about helping the body to move more fluidly in the way that it was designed to move. And it's incredible. However, most of the Feldenkrais movements are done lying on the floor. So Ruthie Allen was one of his very first students back in the early 70s. She was one of his senior teachers for decades. And as she got older, she started being asked whether it would help with osteoporosis. And she realized the answer was actually no. It's great for fluidity of movement, but it doesn't do anything for bone health specifically because there's no weight bearing or resistance work. So
Mm-hmm.
she took everything she knew from her decades of teaching Feldenkrais around the world and
Mm-hmm.
created Bones for Life by bringing in elements that bring in that dynamic confrontation with gravity and the postural alignment when standing or sitting.
Amazing. Wow, that's
And in the
fascinating.
course, whenever I teach this, but particularly in the online course, I talk a bit about the background, I talk a bit about the science, because it's so subtle. And this is the other thing for people to understand. We're lifting weights. We talk about using 20% of available force. It's subtle. And so it's very easy to think this can't be doing anything. But you
Mm.
see the results. You actually see the evidence yourself, just as you did when you said, actually, yes, I can turn my head further than I could 5 minutes ago, when you've done nothing, apparently. So it just, yeah, it's a really brilliant process, brilliant program. And the other thing I wanted to say about it is that you don't need to practice this for, an hour, 3 times a week or whatever. Once you know what you're doing, I mean, obviously, like anything, it's great to have an ongoing class system just to keep it live and moving with you and keep learning more. But when you know a process, you can repeat it at any point. So now you know how to do that thing with your neck.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is remember next time you've got a stiff neck, you can do it again. You don't need me to teach you. It'll take
Yeah,
you 2 minutes.
brilliant. And
And we can
that's,
do things while the kettle's boiling. We can do things when we walk into the bathroom to clean our teeth,
yeah,
dot it
yeah,
in throughout the day.
absolutely. And that's when we come back to, being empowered to look after yourself,
Yes,
knowing what to do and how to do it. So, yeah,
exactly.
which is what it is all about, isn't it? Because unfortunately, when we rely on medical profession or, to find all the answers, it doesn't always work out. So it's good to explore other avenues. So yeah, so interesting. Thank you. So where can people find you if they're interested in finding out more?
So my website is onestepforward.today.
Mhm.
And if you go there, you'll see it covers both sides of my business, but there's a menu link to Bones for Life where I explain a bit more about it and how you can work with me on that if that's something you'd like to do. And there is a free resources page there where there is you can sign up for the video that I mentioned, which is just a free video, which will talk you through that sitting up process. And then I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Helen Davis. My Facebook is One Step Forward with Helen Davis. And basically, if you look for Helen Davis and One Step Forward, you'll find me on any of those platforms.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure it will be very beneficial. And like we said at the beginning, it's not because, even if you're in your 30s and 40s and you're thinking, this is not for me yet, knowing about it and being aware that you can be proactive and there are things you can do, it will definitely pay off for the future, right? So,
I
uh,
honestly believe that if anyone had told me what I know now and what I'm telling other people when I was in my 30s or my 40s, I might not have ended up where I did by being given a diagnosis of osteoporosis at 56.
yeah. And how are you doing now? How are you?
I'm great. I mean, I don't know what my bones are doing because I haven't had another test yet but the point is when when I received that diagnosis, I literally cried for a week. I mean, it was utterly devastating. I thought that was it, life was over.
Yeah.
And now it's just something I'm aware of. I get on with what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And it's created this situation that I'm on an absolute mission to spread the word because I want people to know about it. And what I haven't managed to say, because I always forget to say this, but it's actually quite fun as well. When I teach workshops and things, we laugh a lot, we enjoy it. This isn't terrible, you know, we don't have to be deadly serious about these things. We can
I
enjoy
love that.
it too.
I'm the same with nutrition. You know, quite often I call myself the relaxed nutritionist because we have to
Love
relax
it.
around food. It needs to be fun and enjoyable.
Exactly.
Otherwise, why are we doing this?
That's right. And you can go off and do a course and, right, I'm going to do this. But if you don't enjoy doing it, it's never going to stick. And so
Exactly.
that's the thing. And with these processes, you find the ones that work for you. And some of them you might go, oh, that's brilliant. I really like that. And others you're going to, that's just not for me. And that's fine. You take what works for you and build it into your life and
Mhm.
know that you're doing something, even if it's just the very smallest thing to start with.
Brilliant. Love that. Well, we're going to stay on that because it's nice and positive and cheerful. Because sometimes these topics can be a little bit, you know, doom and gloom. And we want to be positive and we want to show other women that, you know, we can live our life, you know, as happy as possible. And yes, things will happen. We can't, you know, say goodbye to aging. It will happen, but there's so much we can do. And so we can enjoy our lives as long as possible. You know, my plan is to live over 100, at least over 100. What's yours? Do you have a goal?
Absolutely. When I hit 50, I was like, right, now on to the second half of my life.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time and for explaining everything that you do. I think it's fascinating. And I encourage anyone who's watching later to look up Helen's details and her business and find out a little bit more about it. And, you know, if you don't need it now, at least you know it's there. And once you know, if you are looking for solutions, you know, then investigate. I really encourage you to investigate because it's all very, very positive. So thank you, Helen.
Thank you, Sandrine. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
All right. Have a good afternoon. Bye.